Well, I am very pleased to have Cameron Marston introduce our speaker for the day. So, Cameron, you want to take it away?
Hey, y'all. I am so excited to introduce Allison Schultz. She is with Visit NC, and Visit NC is a really great resource for us. They kind of help out tourism offices all across the state. They're kind of our advocate in terms of the legislators as well. So we're super excited to have Allison here today. She is the marketing strategist for Visit NC. She is an industry veteran with proven leadership and marketing experience in tourism, public policy, and politics. She's charged with identifying and implementing new strategies that advance Visit NC's mission. She also has a pretty interesting background, which I just recently learned about. She has some political experience, including 10 years in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill. She is the principal at Mile Marker 630, a firm that connects destinations with leading consumer brands to create impactful campaigns with strong audience alignment. And her forte, what she's really good at, is implementing brand programs across film, music, travel, and entertainment. Her previous experience is at Visit Tucson as the Vice President of Sales and Marketing. And we're really honored to have her here today. I'm going to turn it over for her to explain a little bit more about her role and herself and Visit NC. And we just kind of thought it'd be interesting for you guys to hear the impact of tourism in North Carolina, with everything with the COVID and everything going on right now. So thank you so much for joining us today, Allison, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Cameron. That was a really nice introduction. I am thrilled to be here this afternoon. I wish it could be in person. COVID and this pandemic has changed everything for us and how we meet and do business. But I look forward to meeting everyone personally along the way. I joined Visit NC. Oh gosh, I think it was in February, just a few weeks before the pandemic hit, and then we were all sent home from the EDPNC. It was my plan that I would have traveled the entire state by now and met all of our industry partners, but that is still on my list to do as soon as all these orders are lifted and I can get out and about in the state. Is it okay now if I share my screen, Cameron? Is that okay?
Hope.
Says I am disabled.
Yep. Hold on just a second. I will
Okay.
have to pass that to you. Give me
Okay.
1 second. I'm going to make you the host, and you will have to accept that, and then you can share your screen.
Wonderful.
And Allison, will you be sharing any videos today?
No, actually, I decided to keep it simple.
Okay. All right. Because I would let you know how to make sure the sound comes through. So very good.
All right, so I'm going to share now, and I will get myself in presentation mode. And I'll jump in. It's a pleasure to be here today and to be able to talk about the impact that tourism has on North Carolina. I thought I would give you a quick overview of the record-breaking year we had in 2019 before the pandemic hit, and then actually talk to you a bit about what the pandemic has done in terms of just really decimating the tourism industry across the country and the impacts that it's had on North Carolina. But there is a silver lining, as I think you'll see as I share some of the research, is that North Carolina is actually well positioned to come back in a strong way because we offer what travelers are going to be looking for, and even residents who call North Carolina home, who will want to be vacationing a little bit closer to home in the next year, where they can feel safe as we move through this pandemic. The mission of Visit North Carolina is really to unify and lead the state. Cameron mentioned that. We want to position North Carolina as a premier destination to travelers, domestic, international, as well as to promote our state as a great place for film production. Visit North Carolina is part of the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. We are thrilled to be part of those pillars. As many of you may know, you may in your own businesses have worked with EDP&C, but the mission of EDP&C is really to advance the economic interests of all North Carolina's 100 counties and 10 million residents. And we collaborate with state, regional, local, and private sector partners to help with new business development, startups, recruitment, export assistance internationally. A lot of that has slowed down as a result of the pandemic, in addition to just business growth and retention. If you need any help, certainly let me know, and I can point you to a person who can help you out with your business. I mentioned earlier on that tourism in North Carolina had a record-breaking year in 2019, and we were so excited to be able to share these numbers, and then the pandemic hit. Visitor spending in 2019 was $26.7 billion, representing more than 235,000 jobs in the state directly tied to tourism. We generated $2 billion for the federal government, $1.3 billion for the state, and then looking locally, tourism accounted for $812 million in local tax revenues. Davidson County also had a kind of a record-breaking year as well, where the state was growing at a pace of about 5.6%. What you can see here is Davidson County had $185 million in visitor spending last year. More than 1,100 jobs. Not exactly sure where we stand today with tourism jobs. It generated more than 10.3 million in state tax revenues and 6 million in local tax revenues. And so every resident within your county saved $96 off of their taxes as a result of tourism promotion and visitation to the state. One thing also that we're always excited to share, and I think tourism is going to play a role in how North Carolina comes back across all sectors, is that tourism activities actually drives direct economic impact as well as indirect and induced across all these services, as this slide has shared. So if you look at tourism and close to $27 billion, that you have about 44 billion in those direct and indirect impacts across other industries like real estate, finance, services industry, etc. I'm going to talk mainly today about our domestic market, because with COVID and travel restrictions and ban, we are not putting any activities towards our international market for right now anyway. When you look at overnight visitors, actually North Carolina is our #1 market, representing 39% of the state, actually travels throughout the communities in the state, and it's a good idea to do so given what we offer to travelers. But then when you add up all of those out-of-state markets, it actually represents more than 60%. And one thing that is really important here when you look at travel.
Allison,
Right here say that I have
second.
until Thursday to complete it,
You
or
will look at your screen and
I just need
mute the
another
person
pair of
that you don't
eyes so
know
I
and
don't mess
yell a
with the.
square around them. Just, I don't know if you can see it.
Is something happening?
Well, we're getting feedback. Whitney Sellers, if you can hear me, if you will please mute yourself. I think we're getting some feedback from your end. Thank you. Okay. All right. Take it away, Allison.
All right. So, I had mentioned on the previous slide that 39% of our visitor volume is within the state of North Carolina. But when you add up all of those other states, it's around 61%. And this is where we primarily and historically have focused our efforts, is really driving out-of-state travelers into North Carolina. And one of the reasons for that, as you can see from this slide, is when you look at the numbers, about 61% of out-of-state travelers, they actually spend more than in-state travelers. So it's been really smart for us to do that. Another reason is we don't want to compete against you. When you're putting money in the market to other communities in North Carolina, we're not wanting to compete with you. We want to actually amplify your message. One of the reasons why we had such a record-breaking year is that we had an award-winning campaign that's called First That Lasts, and it was introduced about 2 years ago. And how we actually targeted out-of-state travelers who had an affinity for North Carolina, but who had never actually visited. And we really focused in on those richer experiences that North Carolina provides, and the coast and the Piedmont and in the mountain regions. And then we really showcased people in our creative who had never visited North Carolina and really captured the experience that they had when they were here with us. So I'm sharing some of the creative here. This is a print execution, and it shows a mother and a daughter on the first time that they had ever gone to the beach. And this mother was able to even see it through the lens of her daughter's eyes. So it really shows those richer experiences. Another one is like, Andrea, who was confronting her fear of heights in addition to experiencing the waterfalls that we have in North Carolina. And what you see here is she confronted that fear, and she was 200 feet in the air. And so it helps us really demonstrate just those richer experience North Carolina offers. And then also when you think about, moonshine, we show a couple here who tasted moonshine for the first time and really being able to speak to that heritage and culture of North Carolina. I wanted to share with you an execution of First That Lasts that showcases a number of partners who participate with us in co-ops, because what you'll hear a lot from me today is partnerships are really powerful. We have our hero campaign, but it's really how we partner with the communities across the state that generates that impact. So when you're out there sharing your message, Visit North Carolina wants to make sure that we are amplifying it. So how do we measure results? I mean, I shared a lot about visitation, which everyone in North Carolina can share in those wonderful results from 2019. Everything that we do is research driven. And then once we deploy and execute, we want to measure so that we can make better informed decisions as we continue to go forward. And that's going to be really critical for us as we build and recover from COVID. So as I mentioned, partners are absolutely key to promoting travel. We take great pride in that we work with all 100 counties, and all 100 counties are represented on our website. And we work to share those experiences, whether it's in our paid, owned, or earned media with public relations, and through some partner programming that we do with other divisions within Visit NC. Thomasville is on visitnc.com, which last year generated over 7 million visits. For Thomasville, we like to showcase the offerings that you have. I spent some time looking at the content that you have on our website, as well as reading your digital visitor guide. And I think that you have a lot of offerings out there that's really going to be helpful in terms of how you market your community during this recovery. As I mentioned, we have county represented across our programs. We build out co-ops so that we can buy down rates for you and you can participate with us and get a greater share of voice. In 2019, we had a total of 164 partners with us, of which 70 counties were represented. And through those co-ops, we were able to really extend our share of wallet because it added $2 million to our bottom line media budget, where we could have greater reach. And you can see that here on this slide. So to give you an idea, paid advertising, we're looking at close to $5 million. When you invest, those partners invest alongside us, it really amplifies our budget, and then we're able to get out there and really tell our story. It's kind of interesting. I didn't have a slide in here, but when you look at all the other states in the South, or really all 50 states, North Carolina ranks 28th in terms of budget, of tourism budget, but we actually rank 6th in terms of visitation. So it's these partnerships that really are powerful and enable us to really own and have great market share. The other thing that we do is we want to make sure that our marketing is effective and it helps other industries in the state. And so we do a ROI study with Longwoods International about every other year, and there is a halo effect. And what I wanted to share here is if, let's say, a traveler saw an ad by Visit NC, but didn't actually visit North Carolina, they had a 20% increase in feeling and stating that North Carolina is a good place to start a business. However, if that traveler, an audience we reached, saw our ad and then converted and visited to the state, they had a 61% increase in saying that North Carolina would be a good place to start a business. So we're really proud of that and how it helps, tourism helps all of those sectors. Another thing that we do as well as we work with a company called Arrivalist, who really measures arrivals into our state and into all of our communities across the state. And if they saw our media and then visited, and what we are seeing is once they are exposed to our advertising, they actually visit 1.5 times the rate of those people who don't visit and did not see our advertising. So I wanted to kind of jump in. That was the then story of the incredible impact all of us, are making as an industry to drive economic development in the state of North Carolina. And then, unfortunately, as we were getting ready to release all of these numbers, COVID hit, and it has decimated large sectors of the industry. I wanted to share here a slide from U.S. Travel Association that shows from March of this year through August 1, comparing the same time frame from last year. North Carolina has actually lost, the estimated loss is $6.9 billion. And you can see the loss is on down even to the local level of 142 million is a reduction in what we were able to generate through tourism for local taxes. Another thing that I wanted to share with you is we work with Smith Travel Research, and they pay attention to lodging, occupancy, average daily rate, revenue per available room, and just overall demand. And what you can see just above the line is that we have had steady growth for the last 5 years in occupancy, as well as in average daily rate that helps really generate some good revenue for our communities. Then COVID hit, you see that occupancy is forecasted to hit by the end of 2020 about 33% lower than what we had last year. And it's, really reducing our demand by 31%. You'll see a slight recovery in 2021. They're forecasting that, but we will not get to the levels that we enjoyed in 2019 and in the last 5 years of just how we have really been able to build up tourism in the state. So those were some probably read them and weep stats, but there are some silver linings, and I wanted to share how we have laid out a path to recovery, and certainly with some help through some funding with the CARES Act. As I presented before with the First at Last and what we had been doing up until this time, that is all referred to as our core program of work. Now, in terms of how we are going to recover, we are pivoting quite a bit in that we are going to be placing the lion's share of our marketing dollars to reach people inside North Carolina, because we know from research that people are going to do staycations, they're going to do road trips over travel, they're going to do regional trips, and they just feel that this is a much more safer way to travel as we move through this pandemic. So we have taken all of this into consideration as we built out a program. The tailored campaign that we will have that will be later this year, and we are starting to see in traveler sentiment and other economic indicators that it will be soon, that we'll be able to get out there and get this message and inspire new travel demand for North Carolina. We know that 70% of American travelers, and this is from this week's traveler sentiment study that we do with destination analysts, they indicated a strong likelihood that they're going to choose a destination that they previously visited. And so our campaign, rather than going after travelers who have never visited the state, we are actually going to be targeting in a very tactical way those people who have been here, who know us and love us and see us as tried and true, and that we offer these really classic yearn for experiences. The recovery message is going to be along the lines of come back to the places that you love while reconnecting with the people that you've missed, and let North Carolina bring you back. You'll be a big part of that story in just the history that you have to share in, and we can help amplify your message. I'd already mentioned to you that, again, we are going to be targeting audiences within North Carolina and those contiguous states around North Carolina, people who know us. And then we are going to create programming that really will help give our partners support in addition to some funding through the CARES Act to really be able to amplify that message. So again, I think I've shared, we will be going after on-the-go North Carolinians. These are people who are already out there now. You know, in phase 1, the governor had us sheltering at home. In phase 2, safer at home, loosening those restrictions. When we are fully into phase 3, we will be really marketing. We'll feel free to do so. And again, we're seeing that traveler sentiment and demand grow. I wanted to share a couple of slides that, again, I think really point to some silver linings in the data. For 25 weeks, we have been really closely monitoring this, and there have been weeks that it was just difficult to open up the survey key findings because people were not traveling. People did not want travelers in their own community. People did not feel safe. They were afraid of COVID. They had COVID fatigue, and they didn't even feel that they had permission to dream, to get out and about. But what we are seeing this week is a huge uptick, 53%. It is the highest that we have seen. That it just says, if a close friend says, let's go on a weekend getaway, how excited would you be to go? And so these are really good, strong numbers that are leading us in the right direction. I think the most important thing is as we go into Labor Day, we don't see what we saw around the 4th of July and Memorial Weekend, where you see COVID surges. Because what happens is then people will retreat and they will not travel, and that will continue to hurt our industry. In terms of state of mind, this is also really good. We are seeing in the data that there are 11% of travelers already out there traveling. Our hope is that they're doing it safely, that they're wearing a mask, they're waiting their distance, they're washing their hands, and they're not traveling if they're sick. But these are some stats here that show that things are, again, moving in the right direction from what you look at from the historical data, where that not ready to travel line was pretty grim and sobering. The other thing that I mentioned about those silver linings for North Carolina is where travelers want to go. You've probably seen in the media, beach destinations have continued to rank number one. So our coastal areas have been busy. Cities have actually jumped back up. I mean, back in June, only 18% of American travelers said that they would go near an urban area. So we're seeing some positive trending there. Small towns, I really wanted to focus in on for you today. 34.8%, so about 35% of travelers, when they get back out there, they find small towns really appealing. They feel that they can socially distance. Then we've got the mountain destinations, so our mountain region is going to be well served, as well as our national and state parks. Perceived safety of visiting outdoor attractions. I'm sure this will not be a surprise to any of you that if people have been outdoors, 77% either say that they feel very safe or safe in doing so. So again, with North Carolina being such a state for outdoor adventure, as long as they recreate responsibly, we'll really be able to serve this market. Expectations for traveling in the fall, it's hit or miss. Hoping that we don't have a twin queen, as they're talking about, in a resurge as college kids are going back to campus. We've all watched on the news how that is having our numbers, even in North Carolina, increase a bit. For us to really be able to move the fall and really stretch those summer months, we're going to have to be very careful about safety. But we're looking at here, you got about 36%, which is a good, solid baseline for which to start, marketing again. So the next thing that I wanted to jump into, since COVID hit, we pretty much shut down all of our marketing efforts from our core program. There was zero demand out there for travel. We were in a sheltering in place. But one thing that we have been able to do through funding from the CARES Act that passed through the state, and Visit North Carolina received $5 million initially. By the end of the year, that total will be $15 million for us to really be able to produce a public safety message on how you can travel safely through COVID and in the months to come. We launched Count on Me and See. We talk about partnerships. There are a lot of collaborative partnerships that you can see on this slide. The North Carolina Restaurant and Lodging Association actually conspired this campaign that Visit North Carolina is funding and help creating the brand, the website, creating a $4.5 million media campaign. And the idea here is that if we can just, flatten the curve, we can return to something of business that's a little bit more of normal. So the next slide, I wanted to share with you what the communications objective for the program is. And it's actually just to increase resident and traveler confidence in engaging in dining, hospitality, and travel activities. And of course, we want to get businesses to commit, as well as consumers and visitors commit as well, that they will adhere to those safety measures. What is the key benefit of Count on Me and See? Well, it's a movement between residents, visitors, and businesses to ensure the safety of all of North Carolina communities. I'm sure, as you know, you don't want to see a lot of the businesses within your community shutter. So if we all behave in accordance, then we can preserve those communities where we like to live, play, and work. What is such an outlier about Count on Me and See from other programs that have been implemented across the state is that it has actual training modules. So, we are working with NC State and the state's HHS to create these training modules, of which I know Visit Thomasville has participated, and a number of businesses in Davidson to take on stricter cleaning protocols and to exercise those 3 Ws. So I wanted to share a little bit with you about the campaign. I don't have a lot more time here. I want to wrap this up for you for some Q&A if you have any. I wanted to share some of the early successes since we launched the website, countonmenc.org, on May 15th. We now have more than 14,000 training certificates. They have been issued to employees and businesses across the state. And when you look at those unique participating businesses, it is now over 3,300. And then we've had more than 10,000 consumers and guests take the pledge when they are in North Carolina, and they have been able to download their own personalized Count on Me NC badge. Where are we in terms of the website? We've had more than 240,000 web sessions, which is absolutely outstanding because it's all centered around the safety message. Nearly 170,000 of them are new users. And again, I've already talked about some of those metrics of participation across the state. So let me just get, right to Davidson County. As I mentioned, there's, a good 10 or more businesses who are participating in the state, which is really important. We would love to solicit your help in getting more businesses to take the training, especially if they are consumer facing in any way. The first 3 very specific to restaurants, and the last 4 training modules are more for consumer facing businesses, so they would be applicable. Takes about 20 minutes and there's no cost. Here's, some of the flurry of activity that has taken off across social. Probably have about 2,000 people out there and profiles talking about Count on Me NC. And none other than Thomasville, North Carolina is out promoting across their channels as well. And we thank you, Cameron, for that and for your support. Public relations, another thing that we are doing is we're working to get media to really talk about this and to write about it so that we can see greater visitation in our state and that people are traveling safely and responsibly. And then just kind of wrap things up, because I didn't really have a chance to go over everything that Visit North Carolina does to support the state. I talked a lot today about advertising, only briefly mentioned public relations, but we have a really strong effort that's just driving so much awareness in media and among journalists and influencers to be writing about North Carolina. We're working on some special programs with them virtually, like you're having your meeting, so that we can stay top of mind. We work in group travel. We have a very strong sports marketing division with NC Sports, strong industry leadership that's there for you if you need us. As I mentioned, we're not doing any international marketing right now, just simply because of the travel restrictions and bans from international countries and just the spread of COVID overall. Our Visit NC website, as I mentioned, 7 million visitors came to our site last year, where they can learn about all of you, because we position the brand and then you deliver it. And then we have Retire NC programs. We do significant research, community outreach, very strong across social media. And then, film, I think, had its strongest year last year in 5 in terms of bringing in, new productions. We have our welcome centers that are run by the Department of Commerce, our fulfillment center and our call center, and obviously our visitor guide, which is our fulfillment piece for all visitor inquiries. So just as a close, as a recap, so that you can leave feeling a bit positive about where we are going. We are heading into the Labor Day weekend. Travel confidence could not be more positive, and it's actually showing signs that we could be rebounding, and it's time for us to help create that demand. The percentage of those confident in traveling outside their communities, this was huge, jumped to 49%. That's the highest level we've seen since May. And then it dipped again because of Memorial Weekend. So I hope everybody, travels responsibly over the weekend. This thing is really big because this is important to count on me and see. The percentage of those confident in dining in local restaurants and shopping locally is also up 48%. That's the highest level since middle of May. The majority of American travelers indicate that they plan on taking some type of trip in the next 6 weeks. So I think they should be coming to Thomasville, taking your walking tours, seeing your famous chair, and just exploring the history that you really offer to travelers. 70% of Americans indicate they plan to travel in the next 6 months. That's intention. So we need to COVID to continue to go in the direction we need it to for those numbers to stay at that level. And again, half American travelers feel safe traveling in and around their own communities. So those are some key findings I wanted to leave with you today. And then if you have any questions, if there is time, I was not watching my phone. I think we have about 7 minutes. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Allison, very good presentation. I've noticed the governor in South Dakota, she's been very outspoken about the COVID situation politically, but they're advertising quite a bit on our airways here. One, what effect does that have? And then do we do that in other states? Would we see our advertisements like that?
Yeah, right now, no. The only thing that we will see in the contiguous markets of interest for North Carolina will be the Count on Me and See message. And the reason for that is the funding that we did receive through the CARES Act stipulated that it needed to be a safety message. And so we're leading with that safety message. I didn't have time today to walk you through that creative, which is, I think, very entertaining. We took a very serious topic and made it engaging and entertaining, because we also knew from research that people don't want to be preached to. They don't want some authoritative message. And if we want to get greater percentage of Americans, adhering to those 3 W's, we need to do it in a way that is not forceful, but it has become such a political issue. However, to answer your question, what I shared earlier in the presentation, that recovery campaign about Get Back to North Carolina, we will be moving in to that program, and we're building that out now as soon as we are in phase 3, because we're starting to see those numbers go in the right direction. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, again, Allison, thank you very much. If anybody else has a question for Allison, please unmute yourself. And while they're doing that, Allison, the website for the training, the Count on Me training, what was that again?
It is countonmenc.org.
Okay.
And you can actually see our 60-second video, which will share a little bit about that creative approach. We worked with animators out of New York who actually have a strong affinity for North Carolina. One of the animators is from North Carolina, and the other considers the Outer Banks his second home. And then we also utilized a jingle. So, the sticky song. So we wanted to get into the hearts and minds so people would be humming and singing this and hoping that it would engage and instill those smart behaviors. So you can check that out as well. From the top navigation, you'll be able to see participating businesses. You can go in and take the pledge yourself. There's another thing I didn't mention that I can get over to Cameron, is that we have a toolkit. So our full ad campaign, whether it's dedicated e-blasts, the videos at various links, any of the creative for digital placements. You can use it all at no charge. So if you wanted to put it across your social channels, you would be able to do so. And we can give you access to those materials.
Awesome. Thank you, Allison. And if you will hover over the right corner of my name where the 3 dots are, and see if you can pass those host controls back over to me.
Okay, let me see if it's gonna let me here. Let me do this.
It should be yeah, and it's sometimes hard to see when you have your screen share on. You may want to stop your screen share.
Okay, let me do, oh, here we go.
Okay.